All right. So welcome again, everybody. So good to see everybody here. Before we get started, I am going to introduce our moderator, I'm the moderator, introduce our presenters. Molly Holloman is currently serving as a school library education consultant for NCDPI, which means she's focused on providing timely and practitioner-focused professional learning through virtual meetings, the NC News 101 newsletter, regional and statewide events, and occasionally at NCAP. She is a graduate of UNC Chapel Hill, a proud pirate librarian of ECU, and loves working with new librarians in the LIBS program of Old Dominion. Molly has called the Outer Banks home for nearly 15 years. It's her favorite place to crack open a book and decompress after miles driven and libraries visited across North Carolina. She is joined by Heather Penica. Heather recently became the home base section chief for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction after serving as the executive director of tech and media for Wilson County Schools. She has been in education for over 20 years with varied experiences pre-K to 12, working as a teacher, media specialist, instructional technology facilitator prior to transitioning to leadership roles at the district level. In addition to Ms. Penica's degrees, certifications in education, she is also a certified education technology leader, a certified government chief information officer, and Ms. Penica is a champion for innovation in the areas of media, ed tech, and STEM. And finally, they are joined by Audrey Long, who has been with DPI for 12 years. She started at HRMS and came to the Digital Teaching and Learning Department at the start of the pandemic. In 2023, she became the project manager for EBSCO and Britannica and has enjoyed sharing the vast amounts of digital resources in both products with the teachers. When she's not project manager for EBSCO and Britannica, she enjoys smooth jazz and being Mimi to her grandson. And with that, I am going to turn it over to these wonderful leaders.
Welcome, everybody. It is so great to have everybody here with us tonight, and great to see, as I mentioned before, some returning names from Monday night and some familiar faces from other events and from previous work experiences too. So we've got a great group here with us. If you are just joining us, we had jumped in a little bit earlier and just posed the question that you see up on the screen and asked you to jump into the Menti there. And we're curious of how many people do you introduce or reintroduce to Britannica and or EBSCO in a school year? So look at the names here. Oh my gosh, this is great. We have 2 people have responded less than 5. This is good. Be still apart. And then we have one person that says more than 20.
More than 20.
I have several people who haven't had a chance to reply there. But this is what we see, you guys, traveling across the state. Audrey and Molly and I talk about this all the time, that we are shocked that as long as Britannica and EBSCO have been provided by the state, that we are shocked at the number of people who still have never heard of these resources. And so we find it too, that we introduce it and then sometimes we start introducing it again, and then have people go, oh, that's what that Wise How thing was. And so we're going to have some fun tonight. At least we hope we're going to have some fun tonight. And just take you through a little journey with these resources and talk about a few other ideas as well. So get ready for the research roundup, right?
All right. So
we're really lucky that we get to work with Audrey, because I'll tell you, I know more about Britannica and EBSCO and the many things that DPI does offer in the couple years that I've worked with Audrey over the 10 years I actually worked with this with students.
Okay.
And I think it works both ways, right? Because I say that, and a lot of it was because I didn't know, because I didn't choose to attend things like this to learn. And so we definitely applaud you for being here. And we have some things to share with you, but we're also very genuinely here to learn from you. And I know that you'll see that in some of the things that Audrey shares, that she's listening to teachers, she's listening to librarians and hearing what's successful and also what do you need. So a lot of what we're going to share with you is kind of based on that. Some of the things that we've heard from librarians specifically about what do you need, and how can we, you know, whether that's helping you learn about it or help you teach other people about it. So one of the big ones is this. When people use EBSCO and Britannica, I see you nodding, Audrey, because you hear it too. I just got asked this like 2 weeks ago from a teacher I used to work with. She's like, do you have any suggested resources for biography projects? And I was like, yes, so many, so many. But I think this is a scenario a lot of us face as librarians. And so here's kind of like a little, you know, instead of naming names, we'll call it Miss Thompson and Mr. Rodriguez are collaborating. So a librarian and a teacher to design a research project that immerses 7th grade students in American history, right? Like, let's go big picture. I did not standards align this scenario, so please don't judge me or get on my case about 7th grade standards, okay? Just know it was not that much thought went into it. But really, we want them to think critically about what they are evaluating online and also how to efficiently access this. Those are two big things that always come up, I know, from our side as librarians. And how can we help teachers remember to use these things? So here are some people you may know, you may not know. But if you were going to learn about Lin-Manuel Miranda or Isabella Stewart Gardner, if you don't know her, I've looked her up a lot lately. I've gotten into like a deep dive on her. And there are some good things out there on these resources we're going to talk about. Maybe suffragists is something your kids are looking into. Or, as Audrey came up with recently, Jimmy Carter. Right? There might be a high interest in Jimmy Carter right now. So tell us, Audrey, about where we go to learn about Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. So what I did was, since, of course, he recently passed, and I used him as a person of interest to look up his biography. So what I did was I started in Britannica School under middle school. And so what I did was I went to Explore, the Explore section, and I clicked on biographies. And then under the middle school section for Explore, under the middle school section under biographies, it's going to give you several options to choose under the era, the national, the culture. Then it's going to ask for what are they known for, whether it's a male or female, and it's going to give you a list of options. And so, of course, I chose Jimmy Carter.
I went ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going back. I'm going back.
Okay. And so once I chose Jimmy Carter, then it's going to bring up, I chose Jimmy Carter here. And then as you can see on the left-hand side is what we have, what they call the navigator. And then it gives you a full article. And the article, it gives you an introduction. If you were to click on the blue words, then it'll open up an image. So it'll open up the United States and Nobel Prize that he won. And also, if you scroll up, Molly.
I can't because it's a video.
Oh, okay. Above, if you were to right there, then you can click on those buttons and it will read aloud for you. And also here,
You can translate into any language. However, when you read aloud, it won't read aloud in those translated versions, but it will, however, read aloud in English. Also, over to the left under your navigator, you can that is where you can cite when your students do a project. You can cite, you can send, you can also print. You can, and again, as Molly showed you, you can translate. That one where it has 24, the number 24, that means it's 24 images are related to Jimmy Carter. Also, another good thing, if you have a student that's dyslexic, as you noticed, the font has changed. In the navigator, you can click on that button that's highlighted, and it'll change the button to the dyslexic font, which will make it easier for that student. So as you can see, you have a lot of resources related to Jimmy Carter for the Botanical School for the middle school.
And I want to go back a slide because I went ahead a little bit on you. So Audrey actually wrote all these instructions out. So if it's helpful for you to use the slides, I put this in the chat. If it's helpful for you to either use the words to guide somebody through it, or use the video, feel free. Everything that we create, you're welcome to take and use as well. So let us know how we can help if that's something that's beneficial. So I wanted to show that. And then this is just kind of a screenshot of what Audrey was also talking through. So she had to go through it fast because of the video, but this is where you would click what age group. So if you are looking for something like the example that we had of Americans through history, you could choose two different eras, right? But you can choose this one, click on American. Because it was Jimmy Carter, we picked president. But if you wanted to do something like civil rights, there's a huge list that comes up when you click on this one. So nice tool for being able to find a whole lot of different things and what's offered. And then the other one we talked about was the at a glance.
Right. And the at a glance, if you chose like we were talking about earlier, first ladies, this is where if we wanted to look up his wife, we would look up first ladies of the United States. And at a glance has several categories, and it goes into detail about those categories. So if we chose first ladies at a glance, then we would look up Rosalind. We could look up Rosalind Carter, his wife, and we would just scroll down looking for her name. And we would, if we clicked on her name, then it would give us a lot of information about her personal life. And we would also be privy to information regarding her as far as images. We could also cite information about her. We would have access to all of the information. We would have access to all of the information like we had access to him, all of the tools that we had access to him as well. As you can see, we could read aloud, just like we read aloud for him. We would be able to read aloud for her also.
So one of the things I like about this and this whole at a glance and using something like Britannica is like, it's very natural for us as curious learners, but our students too, to go down a rabbit hole, right? Like, oh, Jimmy Carter, he got a Nobel Prize. Who was his wife? Where did he live? What's this whole thing about peanuts? Like it's like how our brains work, and it's how our kids' brains work. And so I think if we're just giving them a book biography, that's fantastic, right? We want to keep putting those books in their hands. But I just think it's important that we see some of these features that like this definitely looks like what our students, how they learn on things that they are actually curious about. So kind of giving them the opportunity to click through, and you're in a safe and secure, we're not going on Google or Wikipedia where who knows what they'd open next, right?
Well, and I love that the accessibility features that Britannica has added by being able to the read aloud piece, the being able to increase the font size, and the well, of course, the dyslexic font. I mean, who even knew? I had no clue
Mhm.
that was even a thing. But also, we talk about that so hard teaching the standards that we need to teach. And teaching how easy it is to just add in that piece of teaching students to cite their resources because it's right here for them,
Mhm.
And we also, we forgot to mention too, at the top of the navigator, they have the level 1, 2, and 3
Yes.
as well.
Yes. Now, one thing we do need to mention is that our elementary students cannot get into, like, they would be stuck at level 1 because they
Mhm.
cannot have access to level 2 and 3. And then our level 2 is our middle school. So they can go down a level to elementary reading level, but they wouldn't be able to go up to 3 because that would be high school. So high school
Right.
has the whole gamut. However, high school needs that whole gamut in order to be able to really get into the varied reading levels that those of us that have worked with high schoolers definitely see there. So, but being able to cite those sources and then send them
Right.
is very nice. Being able to send them to a Google Classroom or to an email with ease is great there.
All right, then clicking ahead, one other thing we wanted that's on Audrey's list was about primary
Mhm.
sources. And before I let you talk about that, Audrey, I wanted to point out too, if you all are not aware, Britannica does have a whole resource, like the whole Britannica in Spanish, not in that Google Translate like you just saw. It is native Spanish writing that's happening rather than translation that's happening. So just an important thing to kind of point out. But we wanted to share with you about this primary sources, which is at the very bottom. So if you are on that main page, on the Britannica page, and you scroll, the last thing you're going to see is primary sources and Escolar. So on
Uh-huh.
primary sources,
You would be able to access inaugural addresses, not only for Jimmy Carter, but for any of the other presidents as well. Their inaugural address, any of the speeches that they made. So everything that you would need regarding a biography, regarding the presidents or anyone else, you can find it all right there in Britannica. You wouldn't need any other resources. You would be able to find it all for each of the Britannica schools, for elementary, middle, as well as your high school students.
but if you did want to use another resource outside of EBSCO, this is kind of your landing page. So I picked middle school just because for the scenario that we created was for middle school biographies, but obviously you can, there's these options are going to look a little different, but you're going to have biographies also in elementary, middle, and high school. And so it's right here on the home page. And once you click it, this is what it looks like once you click it. So you can see the different, I'll slow it down so you can see some of the different topics.
And so there, like you say, you have your U.S. presidents right there as well.
I like that it's broken down. It feels a little less intimidating for somebody who's looking, hey, I'm curious, but I want to know, what exists. So this one was just picking writers, authors and writers, and then getting into something so specific as a specific graphic novel creator. And I think about the fact, like, there's not a biography out there for some of these people that they might be interested in, but they might be found on something like EBSCO, right?
And biographies is so hard, and talk about collection development. Biographies is so hard to keep up with. I have to tell y'all a quick little story. It probably happened about 7 years ago. I was in a library, elementary library, and I was filling in for a media specialist had just left there, and I was at the district level, and I was making a book display, and it was right around this time of the year, and I was setting up a book display that would last for Black History Month and Women's History Month. And so I pulled out and set up and pulled out a Oprah Winfrey book. And about the time this child walked in, and I was like, look, wouldn't you want to read this book? And literally, I felt just as old as I could be when that child looked at me and said, who is that? I mean, who doesn't know Oprah, y'all? But that was my realization how very hard it is to keep up with biographies. And these kids, like, people become famous and infamous all in one day now. And so it's great to have these type of resources at our fingertips, so that when we say go research somebody famous, who's famous to me might not be famous to them, you know? So these are great resources.
And I also wanted to point out a couple of things in Explorer under EBSCO. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that under My EBSCO, this is where you can go to create an account for yourself. And if you create an account, you can create projects and also save ebooks as well. So, and then, so if you like look up ebooks or any type of magazines, and one of the options you're able to do is to save, then that's where you would save. And so when you would log out of Explorer or EBSCO and you want to go back to it, you would go back and go into your account, and that's where you would find your saved information. Also, one thing that's important that if you all have heard me talk about Explorer and EBSCO before, is it's important to know that the database it's important to know that when you share a link with your students, to make sure that they have access to that same database. And up at the top where it has all databases, that's a quick way to find out if your students have access to particular databases. Because if you try to share a link and your students don't have access to that database, then they won't be able to access that particular link. Also, on the left-hand side, you'll see where you have curriculum for your students. If you have a question about the curriculum, the standard curriculum, you can look up that information on the left-hand side. Also, it gives you citation information for your students. It also gives you a research guide for your students as well. So all that's available to you for Explorer, and that's for each of the grade levels also.
So I paused on this one so that Audrey could walk you through some of those things, but it's also reminded me to kind of pause and say, if you are new to using these resources, just to know that when Audrey says you can create an account, you can access both EBSCO and Britannica, what we showed you, through your NC Ed Cloud login. Once you're logged in, like you would get to, your evaluation instrument, for example, you're going to be able to easily click into any of these. What she means by having an account is once you're in, you can actually make something too personalized, kind of like you would save to a folder in your Google Drive, for example. And so you have access to all of these things. You don't need to create an account. It's just a bonus to create an account,
right?
If you want. So just know that I'm not, what you're seeing here, I'm not logged in as an account. Like I do not have my account logged in what you're seeing on your screen. But just a couple things to point out too with this one specifically is, like Heather was saying, I don't think there's biographies out there about this list of YA authors. So if I am if I'm a super into reading some of these YA authors, and that's who I want to pick to do one of my biography projects on, I might have to borrow this book, which I have access to, and just jump to that chapter, which is really convenient, instead of you thinking as a librarian, how am I going to collect, how am I going to, find a biography on Rainbow Rowell, who I'm actually reading right now. So it's kind of ironic that she's right there. But, I might want to know more about her, but there's not a physical biography I can put in the library. But, these are the kind of things I think we forget to dig into. So I wanted to point out a couple things that we're going to move on from biographies, because I think at this point we've really talked a lot about biographies, and you're probably like, yeah, okay, we got it, biographies. But if you have gone through Britannica, and if you've gone through EBSCO and you are still looking for people, or you have that one kid who just likes the obscurity of somebody that nobody else has or has heard of, that was me. So I get that. I feel that kid. So in NCpedia, if you have forgotten about this great resource, which is also listed in both of your, so again, when you're in the NCED cloud, you should be able to see educator resources and student resources. And Heather gave a little heads up earlier. Those might look different eventually. We are working on making them look more student friendly. So just know that that's in the works. But in NCpedia, there's actually biographies about all kinds of people I've never even heard of from North Carolina. So they have them broken down, as you can see here, in so many different topics and subjects that you might want to send students down. I thought this one was fun, biographies by county. I went into Dare County where I live, and I was like, there are some missing. How cool would it be to have your students go write and try to get it published on NCpedia? Like, I've done that. If you go read about the Outer Banks, it's me. I wrote some of those articles.
Ah,
I did. I didn't even know you could do that until the last couple of years. So just saying, go find out on it. So truly, I'm like challenging you. If you have like people that you want to be on NCpedia, go write about them. But of course, we have to give this little shout out to Roberta, who has North Carolina ties. So if you did not know, she would be a wonderful person that you could send your students down a rabbit hole to go learn a little bit more about, especially this week in our grieving of her. But she is originally from Black Mountain. So there's things like that, again, is there going to be a who was? I hope so. Maybe someday there will be. But, you know, again, we can put these things in front of our students, which I think is really important. Two more things you could go into NC Kids Digital Library. Remember, that's mostly for like K through 4th grade. Anybody can access it. You need a public library card, but anybody can access those. So those are going to look a little bit like your younger ones, as you can see there. And then there's the new Level Up, which came out in the last year. And the Level Up library is for grades 4th grade and up. And so those are a little bit more, you know, robust biographies, I guess. But there's also fun ones like this Amelia Earhart one is a graphic novel one. Is that what you give her a research project? Maybe not. But I just wanted you to see there's so many different formats of biographies in these resources. So just don't forget about these things. And then this is my quick little weird plug. It is not on these resources, but if you've not heard of the TPS, it's the Primary Sources Teacher Network. I learned about this at AASL 2 years ago, and I go down little rabbit holes in this one. So if you were wanting to teach this book biography, for example, somebody has also already made an album about Mavini Betch. That's her name. Sorry, I knew I was going to lose it. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about her as an environmentalist, instead of just reading the picture book, there's all kinds of primary sources that have already been curated for you in this magical place. So free account. Unfortunately, not yet in the educator resources. That might be one of those things we dig into this year. But I just wanted you to see that there's a lot of places that we can go to, including using something like a book biography picture book and matching it up with some of those primary sources to kind of really enrich. All right, we're going to pause.
I just have to jump in here. If you are a secondary media specialist, just take this quick win and know this. Hop into some of these resources that we shared and find a primary source, or find the link to the primary source and put it on like a little sticky note and take it to one of your social studies teachers and say, did you know we had all these primary sources online? That is your quick win. There's your freebie. You will have a new BFF by the end of the day, because they can't find them. It is embedded in their curriculum, up, down, back again, frontward, sideways. And all that they use is what is right there in front of them and what is like spoon-fed to them. And they want more, but they can't find them because primary sources are not truly Googleable. And yes, that's a word, I've made it up. And so I'm just telling you, there's your quick win with them. And so back to, regular scheduled programming, go Molly. But
you're getting a lot of reactions, so I think you've been heard.
I'm just telling you.
It's true, and I feel like, let's just say job security. We have a master in this.
We just need those quick wins sometimes. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, so dig in, but I wanted to point out that kind of a fun resource that is not yet listed among our other amazing resources. But while we're on that primary sources conversation, I felt like that was worth mentioning. So we're going to pause for just a second. We do have like another scenario to walk you through and show you a couple more things. But is there anything that works for you when you're teaching biographies that we did not mention? Or anything that's a challenge that we should know about so we can work on addressing them?
I do have a question. These resources are phenomenal, but as a newbie here, I don't know how to access them. Or maybe I do in the NC Ed Cloud now. I do see the first two, but then maybe my question is, how would the students access them?
They go through NC Ed Cloud as well.
Okay.
And they would, like for NC Ed Cloud, they would access it, and for Britannica School, then they would, whatever their grade level is, then they would click on Britannica School Elementary or Britannica School Middle or High, and then for EBSCO, they would click on the EBSCO button, and then it'll open up, and so then it'll open up for Explorer, whatever their grade level is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I don't, I definitely don't have experience with using a lot of technology in my library space.
Okay.
And so this is definitely an area that I need to get more experience in navigating as well as presenting. So I'm excited to jump in, but thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Well, you could just, just contact me. Like if you, you can just contact me, and I could set up, we could set up some time where we can do like a quick team meeting, I could share my screen or whatever, and I can walk you through it, if you want to.
Okay. And I see Laura has given a suggestion about using a QR code. Okay. All right. Thank you all for that. All of that.
You're welcome.
Start with yourself. Just like I said, a lot of what I've learned is because I hear Audrey say things and I have to go in and start clicking and finding it on my own. That's how I'm learning too. Even though I have used some of it with students, it changes. There's new things added. So just, start from there. And then it's always helpful to go in on like a student device and see what they see. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Cheryl, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm like Lee. I'm just like her in that I am new to North Carolina. And so I see Laura said the teachers can give us a QR code because I'm in elementary education also. And I also was wondering, how will the students click? Will they see an NC Cloud on their Wake ID portal, or how will they?
So I'm going to jump in there, Cheryl, just because you're in Wake.
Yep.
So Destiny and EBSCO are in the kids portal. So they just click right on the portal inside their Wake ID portal, and they're in.
Good. What about NC Children's Digital Library? I think I heard y'all say somebody must have a library card to use NC Children's Digital Library.
Yeah, that's public library card. Yeah. But so in Wake, it's a little confusing just because for the kids, EBSCO and Destiny is in their portal. For us, we have to add it to our portal. So if you go into your portal and go to the plus, then you'll see those in there and you can add them.
And just for clarification, you said Destiny. That's that one that has the Follett icon and it says Destiny Discover underneath it?
Yes.
Because our kids do have our school catalog, Destiny.
Yeah. And they also should have an EBSCO and a Britannica button in their portal.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those of you that are not in Wake County, you don't have to worry about that. They have an extra little step. Those of you, so Wake County has Wake Learns, and so theirs is set up a little bit differently, but then the rest are set up through my NC Cloud. Is that right? Yes. So, any other challenges that come up as you guys think about biography projects? We felt like that was something that no matter what level media specialist you are, that's something that always seems to come up. We're always tasked with a biography project. Anything else that comes up?
There is a question in the chat. Laura asked about a place to translate articles in EBSCO.
Yes. Once you, like if you're in EBSCO and you actually open up the article, then at the very top, then it gives you different options where you can share, where you can cite, where you can share, cite, print, and so forth. Then you can translate. And again, it's just like Britannica, you can translate, but when you have the option to print, yeah, at the very top, look at me doing my pointer like you all can see my pointer. But at the very top, you can translate, but if you see the little headphones beside, it won't, you can't hear it in the translated version. Again, you can only hear it in English, but you can translate.
So this is tricky too. It took me a couple clicks, Laura, to find one that gave me this little world on top. So when you open in PDF, it's going to be a little wonky. You want one where you're able, so you see it just changed. So I chose for access options. I did full text online.
Exactly.
And if I chose
PDF is not going to do, PDF is not going to translate. Only in the text version is it going to translate.
And that's why she was trying PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll just have to try to find one that has, yep, that's exactly. And the PDF is really nice. Like it's, you know, it looks more like the article, right? So a lot of times, you know, when you're using a magazine, you want the actual article. But if you are trying to translate it for another student who needs that access, then I would just do the full text online, and then you can translate the whole thing.
Laura, I wonder if you uploaded the PDF into Google, if it would give you the Google translation tools. I don't know that it will, but that's just a thought. I don't know. Now you're going to have me trying it after this, but
I know. See, this is how we find stuff out. We just Okay, so we got to go through this one kind of quickly because we're going to run out of time. But that's good because we've had some great questions, and you know, again, this is what's telling us: are we meeting a mark, or are we missing a mark? But you know, here's another scenario: would be something like current events. And this is another one that I know a lot of times us as librarians, if we're not being asked to come up with something like a research resources, then it might be something like this, like, for example, of an ELA teacher who wants to include some current events in a daily bell ringer. And they're like, hey, I don't want to just use the news. I get in trouble for using XYZ put in your, you know, platform. I don't want it only to be social media news. So what else can I use? Like that's typically what we're going to get asked, right? So a great place to start is EBSCO. And Audrey, you want to talk through this one?
Okay, so for EBSCO, again, like she was saying, for your current events, then it has several topics, current event topics that you can click on. And the more you click on those topics, then the deeper it's going to go into that particular current event. You can either choose that the big image, what they show is what they're called the hero image. And then you have little buttons that's called discover topics. And then those discover topics, they change, I think twice a week or something like that. But then the bigger explore topics, they're pretty much the same. And like I said, so, and like when you take your mouse and hover over that topic, then you'll see an image that appears. But you just, the more you click on that, like once you click on that big image, then the more you click into that image, then the more information, the deeper that resource, you'll find out about that resource. Now here, this section here is what they call the point of view. And what I like about this is in the beginning, when I first started presenting on the point of view, it was okay, but I think it's a lot clearer now how they've broken it down. So when you open up, when you go to the database point of view, it looks pretty much like what Molly, the picture that Molly showed previously. You'll have different images of different topics. This particular one, for an example, I pulled out, it was schools and education. And so I chose cell phones in schools because that's been a hot topic lately. And so for points of view, you're going to, for each point of view, you're going to have an overview, which as you can see, I pulled out, you have your overview, you're going to have your point, which is going to basically be for, it's going to be for the topic. And then you're going to have your counterpoint, which is going to be against whatever that topic is. And then you're going to have your, what is it called? The guide to critical analysis, which is going to give, I guess what you can say, just sort of round up sort of what has been said for and against. And so, like I said, they have several topics that you can choose from under point of view. And as you'll see, we have, if you go, if Molly scrolls on, I've what I did was we have another section called Teach Britannica that Britannica recently started in, what was it, August or September. They recently created this section in August or September, and it's really good. It's really been a hot subject for the educators. And this is really good. You can go back if you want to pull in your biography, if you want to use what we just talked about, your point of view, you can use this Teach Britannica. They have lesson minis, they have your instructional strategies, and they have your I can never remember that third one, but anyway, all of it you can use it to the student can use it to help them with their projects. So let's say, for instance, if they were going to use these particular lesson minutes, you might have them to use these particular lesson minutes to help them with their project as far as writing their biography. So for this one, they might use SMART searching and evaluating and citing sources. So this will help them to learn how to search for the information, to help them when they do the biography, and also evaluating and citing sources. It would help them to know how to cite the information as they do the biography. And then the next section, graphic organizers, that's the next section. Okay, yeah, that's the one I always can't remember. So this one, instructional strategy, these are two that I chose. If you active reading through writing, this helps them. Let's say, again, we're using biography. This will teach them how to actively read through writing. So it's teaching them how to pull out the information that they're reading and use that information just instead of just reading it and not knowing what information to focus on. So it's teaching them how to focus on specific information to use for their biography. Also, it's teaching them, the other one is teaching them how to take, to visually take note taking. And then also the last section that I paired these two with is the active reading through writing. graphic organizer, and it's sort of giving them like a paper to use with the instructional strategy, and the other one is the note taking. So, and they have different other ones that they can use as well. But this is just another way that you can use Teach Britannica in line with projects, and just to enforce their reading, their projects, or however you choose to use it, to help the students to like I said, to help the students with their projects, be it biography or whatever you're trying to use. One of the lesson minis that I looked at the other day, it incorporated, I think it was, what was it? It incorporated what I want to say, like I just lost without not my train of thought, but the word I wanted to use. Like if you took them on a field trip and incorporated a field trip with that particular lesson mini. So Britannica has pretty much did everything for you for those lesson minis to sort of help you with that. Also, the ones that you see out there today, they add on to those lesson minis like on a regular basis. If you go up to at the top, Heather,
at the top of Britannica in the right corner,
it's
Britannica symbol, and if you drop down from that, it says Teach Britannica.
But it's another section, like once you get to Teach Britannica, where you can go to see because they have a update Friday or something like that. They update this section every Friday. They let you know what they've updated on the Teach Britannica site every Friday. And also they have calendars that they add information, like whatever that
top picks,
yeah, every Friday. And they have top picks that they add and let you know when they've added new information to the lesson minis or the graphic organizers. So it's a really good section, and we've had a lot of positive feedbacks from the educators regarding Teach Britannica. Does anybody have any questions about Teach Britannica and how to access it?
There's nothing in the chat. I did put the link right there. So you have a couple ways to access it, but it is in the chat. And something, if you haven't clicked it open to look at it yet, the beautiful thing about them is they're made and they're very adaptable. So like this note-taking graphic organizer, you don't have to go in and create it yourself anymore. It's already made. You can use it with anything. It doesn't have to be used with Britannica.
Right.
I saw Chris had put in the chat, and it's so funny because I haven't heard anybody else say it until I thought maybe I was the only one that correlated it. But she put in the chat that it reminded her a lot of the old SOS strategies from Discovery Education, and that's exactly what it reminds me of. I wanted to comment one thing on the current events piece and kind of point of view. The one thing with the point of view piece is when teachers are teaching that, they struggle so hard to find the conflicting views. And so having a resource that naturally gives that is a game changer. Being able to have one source where they can go and find both views and then an overarching kind of explanation is really impactful. So your English teachers will love that. And then the other thing with current events, I had a teacher when I worked with high school a social studies teacher that wanted to start their classroom off with current events. And they wanted to do kind of a flipped classroom model. And so every afternoon the homework they assigned was to read the current event of the day And so they would post an article from EBSCO every day, and the kids had a choice. They could either read the article that was posted and or do their own research on the internet about that particular subject, about that current event. And it was great because there were so many interesting conversations that happened around the current events, because the children that were reading the information from EBSCO knew they were getting valid information. But what the teacher allowed by the children who were getting other resource information and bringing that information in is they had real conversations about misinformation. And so it was really a great approach to having conversations about current events while also having conversations about misinformation. And so it was really just a great approach. Not my idea. I just helped provide the research. And nowadays we have to be so careful, because now, it used to be that when students would Google, they would get those top research or top articles and responses based on, who was paying the most. Now they're getting at the very top an AI response, which we know AI is going to give us a response, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. So they're getting an AI response from Google, and then they're getting those top resources. And so they're not even getting at what they can see on a page. They don't even know that there's accurate information on at least the first top half of the page when they search, but they don't know that. And that's what's scary. So
yes, job security again.
Yes.
Seriously, how do we communicate? I think that's really important that we make it that clear. That this is why we teach research. It's not because we've always taught it. It's because we've always been information specialists, and the access to information changes constantly.
Yep. Tell that tidbit to ask your principal at your next teacher meeting. If you can share, just tell them if you can have 3 minutes, share that bit of information about Google and watch the faces in the room. It will be a game changer. So anyway.
And how many different results you get, and I think of that shortcut, we all are taking it. And so students obviously have been for years now too. Let's not forget, ChatGPT has been out for years. That shortcut of I'm going to do research by just asking ChatGPT. Yeah. So we really, I think we're not sitting here being like, forget AI, go to Britannica. We're saying, no, we know that this is what we're doing and what students are doing. So be real with them. Instead of saying we're going to do it because we have to, we're doing it because this is the reality of access to information right now. And so we have to learn these skills, and where do we go to make sure we know we're getting accurate information? Okay, we're going to wrap this up really fast. So EBSCO has a lot of good things under that point of view. Yes, somebody asked in the chat, is it only for high school? It is, but you at all age levels have access to it, which is a great place to go. I didn't put this in the chat because it was worth saying to everybody. I was elementary. I could still go in there and find good counterpoints, and then sparse it down to what I needed it for, right? And I could be the filter of what that looks like for elementary without giving them the actual articles. So there's some really great things, or just to see where the sources come from. These sources are very wide ranging. That's the other nice thing about point and counter, or the points of view, is that they come from different platforms. And so even if it was just introducing me to platforms to go and dive further into. So don't write it off just because you're not a high school librarian. It's still an access that you have access to. Couple other ones would be this one, PBS Learning Media, if you have ignored that in your lovely NCED cloud. So again, the NCED cloud, you're usually going to Britannica or EBSCO, right? Those are the main things. If you click on educator resources, that's where some of these other things that I've talked about are buried, including PBS Learning Media. You can just go to it, but it does help sometimes to go in. You get a little bit more access to things if you go in through your NCED cloud. And so it has things like this. So if students are curious about tariffs, or you have a civics teacher who's where's something that I can actually make this relevant and share with them, here it is from the PBS NewsHour that also comes with what standards it's aligned with, and it comes with discussion questions. So boom, done. here you go. Here's the video and here's the discussion questions. And so I just wanted to point out that, here's another resource if you're not finding what you want in points and counterpoints. I'm going to end with you, Audrey. We're going to come back to this one. You have the fun news to share with people. If you'll go back to, if it is pinned in this chat, but Heather, maybe you can drop it in again. And while I say last words, before I pass it to Audrey to say the last words, if you will go in Menti and tell us how you are using either Britannica or EBSCO, if you do, we really want this in Menti because the chat kind of goes away when we're done recording. And this is data that helps Audrey and me and Heather and our team know how to help you. So if you are using Britannica or EBSCO and you would like to give us this data of like, this is how I use it, we really, would love to just kind of know how you're using it so we can keep learning as well. And yay for Chris using VBS. I think it's awesome. And I just think it's underutilized. And so it was worth mentioning again here. I keep opening up the wrong thing. Hang on.
Hold on. Well, yes, this one. I'm going to say one last thing. The other question that's in Menti, and y'all, I know people ask for feedback and they never look at it. We aren't those people. We look at it. It drives what we do every single day. So the other thing we would love for you to do in that Menti, the third question is, how can we better support you using these resources? We heard from Cheryl and Lee that these are the first time that you're seeing some of these and you want to use them. What can we do to support you? Audrey's awesome. She said, hey, send me a message. We'll hop on a Teams together. She'll drive to Wake County. She'll drive to Greensboro to see you. But what can we do to support you? So now I'm going to be quiet. Oh my God.
I'm saying this, and then Audrey's got book news for you all. So just hold on. She's around Wake. But I just want to put this up there. It's the very last slide. So if you open our slide deck, this is our last slide. Reach out to Audrey. She wrangles all these questions and things. Clearly, she knows way more than I do. So there's that. I'm just a librarian fangirl. So if there's something that as a librarian you need with these things, reach out, let me know. Or if you want to celebrate what you do, tell me about it. And then Heather's our boss lady. And so both Audrey and I will be like, Heather, we really need this. And so Heather's like, yeah, we can make that work, or I'll work into it and I'll work on it. So don't think we haven't gone to her both about a bunch of things about how we can do this better in terms of how we're offering these digital platforms. So genuinely, whether it's through a library lens or a digital subscription lens, reach out to us and we'll tell the boss lady.